Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Honor to introduce our opening speaker, Carla G. from Antioch. I first met Carla about a year ago. Carla was finishing up her 3-year commitment as the Alanon coordinator for Northern California. And I met her at a 3-day retreat that they host every year for Alanon sponsors. It's called the Alanon Sponsor R&R, which is actually coming up in September this year. And see me if you have questions about that. There'll be a workshop on it tomorrow at 12:15. And I was really impressed, actually. We had spoken on the phone a couple of times before, and I was really impressed with the one thing that struck me about Carla was her patience. I was new to Alanon service, and I had a lot of questions, and she just really handled them very patiently and compassionately with me, and didn't give me any directions or said I couldn't do this or could do that. She just let me find my own way with her gentle guidance. And at the end of the 3-day weekend retreat, I thought, this person's recovery is amazing and her life is amazing, and I want to share her recovery with our fellowship at Living Sober. And I asked her if she'd be interested in submitting a CD for the committee, and she had a commitment in Southern California this weekend, and about 6 months went by, and she said, my commitment changed. Is that opportunity still open? And I said yes, and we got a CD submitted within like 2 weeks before the deadline. The committee voted, and guess what? You guys are hearing her tonight. So without further ado, Carla G.
Hi, I'm Carla. I'm incredibly grateful. You all look wonderful, and a little nervous, which is always a good thing. If I can get them to fly, in the right direction, then that's helpful, I think. Just like to have my books close. So I'm an incredibly grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Alanon and Alateen. And it's my honor. Thank you, John, for inviting me and for the committee. This is a wonderful event. This is my second time at this event. The first time I came here maybe 5-6 years ago, something like that. And I was not in a good space. And this was not a good event for me. And so I'm really glad to be back to have a different experience. And that's something that I get to learn in this program. I have a serenity date, September 2001. It doesn't mean that I am serene every day, but I have the potential to be serene since I walked through the doors of Alanon. When I showed up here, I was broken. I had tried all of the tools that I knew, faster, harder, smarter. Was not making a difference in my life at that time. I was in a relationship with a woman who had 2 children, and so I was co-parenting and keeping it all together. And it was a hard time. That was not the first time I had heard about Alanon or gone to Alanon. Probably middle school. Science class, my instructor had someone come and share their story. I don't know if it was an Alateen or an Alanon, but what I know is what she said told my story, and I thought, this is really weird. there's no drunk in my house. How can I have all of these things about perfection, about blending, and not have anyone at home drinking? So I kind of filed that away back here. And that was about the same time that Mara Moscone and Harvey Milk had been shot. And it was also about the same time that I knew that I was probably a lesbian. And it terrified me. I was born in San Francisco. I grew up just south of here in South San Francisco. And so from a very early age, I had taken in all of the family disease that had shown up in my family. Both of my folks were raised by fathers who drank. My dad's father in particular was a pretty violent drunk. My dad's role in his family, he was one of 13. My dad's role was to find his dad in this little dinky town in Missouri and bring him home out of the bar before he got arrested because they couldn't afford to bail him out. I never knew my grandfather, but I knew that my dad was pretty obsessive. Today I admire his workbench. Everything has its place. It's very tidy. He has his way of doing things. As a teenager, it terrified me a little bit. As I would see parts of me that were him, I'm like, I don't want to be like him. And my dad was very passive. And so the things that I learned in my family growing up were to, pull yourself up, handle stuff. My folks were 17 and 21-ish when they left Missouri and moved to California. And fortunately, they waited a few years before they had me. But so I grew up in this family, and what I love about this conference is I get to bring all of the parts of me here. Not that I can't bring all of myself, but you all get it. I'm home, I feel. When I see rainbows and things, it's like I'm home. I'm home. So going through those school years and with the values that I learned in my family, affected by the family disease of alcoholism, was to blend in, was to not bring attention to myself. And my junior year of high school, I had a girlfriend. Of course, I was not very public about that. She was 2 years older and was happy to be out. And I'm like, hello, we cannot share this with other people. And for me, the family disease shows up also in my coming out. Because in my family, the rules were, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And so we certainly weren't talking about the fact that my girlfriend who was hanging around all the time was my girlfriend. But there were people who helped that out a little bit. One story in particular, I remember coming home from going out to dinner. I have a younger sister, my mom, and my girlfriend. And we pulled up, and I lived in a yellow house with a white picket fence. And someone had painted on the gate, Les's. And I remember thinking, oh God, I've been found out. And in the image that I have of my mom, which she too, affected by the family disease, didn't say anything that I remember, got the paint and was immediately painting the fence. We didn't talk about it, we didn't, And that's for me, that piece of being frozen, of not, somehow I'm not okay. And what I know today is that my mom didn't want me to hurt. She was being a mom. Let me make this go away. So fast forward a little bit, in and out of relationships, I seem to have this knack of either being with folks who are deeply affected by the family disease or folks who are actively in their addiction. And so in 2001, I had been in a relationship for a number of years. I would find myself very anxious, waking up, not being able to sleep, obsessing about how are we going to handle this, how are we going to do that, and, lost another job, how's that going to happen, what do I need to do? And I remember thinking, if I could just not wake up, that would be great. That would make all of this go away. Thank God I wasn't actively intent on harming myself. And I happened to be working with a professional who I'd known for some time, who said, you know what, you need to take your butt to Alanon. And I'm like, she doesn't talk to me that way. Maybe I should listen. And so I went to Alanon, and it was not the first time I had been in Alanon. Probably 8 years before that, I had gone, and I would do what I called drive-through Alanon. I would go into a meeting, feel good, and drive out. And then a few months would go by, and then I'd drive in again, feel a little bit better, and then drive out again. So I knew in 2001, if I wanted things to be different, I really had to commit. And so my home group, Saturday morning, 8 a.m., Concord. Come on out anytime. That's where I'll be when I'm in town and not at things like this. And what I got when I walked through, once I found the room, because sometimes we have a way of hiding our rooms, but I eventually found it off the cafeteria with a room that says authorized personnel only. I went into the room, and it was, it was filled. And what I found was my shoulders that were up in my ears relaxed just a little bit. And for that hour and a half on Saturday mornings, I wasn't arguing. I wasn't pushing. I came in, as I said, broken. The other thing that I came in was sarcastic and arrogant, mixed together. Sarcastic and arrogant, and, if only you would do this, we would be okay. Get with the program kind of thing. And was not kind and patient, and had run out of patience. And really, my disease was in full bloom. And I began to hear things that were very helpful to me, like the 3 C's. I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, and I can't control it. I had been blamed for it, and I certainly tried to control it. And there were moments where I'm like, well, that's working. For a little teeny tiny bit. So I started to pick up different slogans. I started to, I had, my language at the time was a lot of, I have to do this. Otherwise, the kids won't have lunch. I have to do this. Otherwise, something terrible will happen. And I started to be able to change my language a little bit. Do I want to do this? What would happen if I didn't? And I remember one particular argument where there was yelling and screaming, and there was, I don't know what you're getting in that Alanon room, but it's not helping us. And I thought, oh, but I'm sleeping much better. And I was beginning to set limits. And part of it was that I had stopped a level of rescuing that was not helpful to either one of us. That I was beginning to take the focus off of what my partner was doing or not doing and place it on the serenity prayer. What can I control? What can I control? And how do I know the difference? So I said I knew that I needed to get involved, to stay in Alanon, because I wasn't strong enough at that time to say I'm going to a meeting because I choose to go to a meeting. So I volunteered for every service available in my Saturday meeting and other meetings, so that I could say, I have to go to a meeting today, I'm the literature person. I have to go to the meeting today because I'm the secretary. And that is what kept me in the seat frequently enough to begin to continue to take this in. I also knew that I needed to work it for real, that I needed to get a sponsor and start working the steps. And so I did that. I got a sponsor right away. I worked step 1 by answering the questions out of Paths to Recovery. And my shoulders went down a little bit out of my ears. And there were less fights at home. I was able to say, not cover for their mom anymore and just say, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know. I started to be able to say the truth. I don't know. So then I got to working 1 through 3, and then I kind of stalled out. And I'm like, what's that about? Come on, keep going, work the steps, 12 steps, 12 months, I'll be ready to go. And so it took a little while, and I what I figured out is that the sponsor I had was great, and she was wonderful, but she was a little harsh. And inside, I am pretty harsh on myself, and that if I were going to start doing an inventory and looking at my part, that I needed something different. And so I had a conversation with that sponsor, and then found a second sponsor who is an amazing woman, who I'll talk about that later. But she was just gentle, and she could cry in meetings, and she was available. And I thought, that's what I want. I want to be real. I want to be connected to my heart, and I want to be real. And so we set off on the 4th step, and I did the paths to recovery. I did the Blueprint for Progress way of doing the very, very long, I don't know how many years it took me, a couple probably. And I would write some and share some, and write some and share some, and write some and share some. And it was phenomenal, because I just began to unpack things, and I started saying, okay, when I work all 12 steps, I'll make the decision about this relationship and whether I should stay or go. And then somewhere in the 4th step, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to wait till 12. And then I was about halfway through 4, and I'm like, okay, God, because I had a God now. When I showed up here, I didn't have one, and actually the word made my skin crawl. And now I can say it now, and it's like, it's big, it's huge, it's genderless, and it wants nothing but the best for me, and always has my back. And so I'm like, okay, let me talk with my sponsor, let me pray about it, let me, take a look. And my biggest fear was that I wouldn't be able to continue a relationship with the kids. I love being a parent. And I said, okay, God, this is in your hands. If I'm feeling like I need to end this relationship, make it crystal clear, leave no doubt. And things got really insane. And I'm like, okay, I think that's really clear. And so there were a series of conversations that we had, and I remember wanting to wait a little while before talking with the kids. And I was maybe 3 years into program, something like that. And I had enough to say, we'll talk about it after I get back from my meeting. That I could set in place boundaries and limits and pause. I could ask for space. Doesn't mean I'm always going to get it, but I can ask for it. And so I was able to get connected to, talk with people in my meeting and say, I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I'm going to show up, and I'm going to try and be in integrity. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be kind. I'm going to use, think. Is it thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary, and kind? And then say what I need to say, because I didn't want to be that, arrogant and self-righteous, pointing the finger, putting down, but to just say, it's just not working. And what I had come to discover is that my life improved dramatically, and I had latched on to that part of our welcome that says you can have peace and serenity irregardless of what the alcoholic is doing. And I had that. I had so much more peace and serenity in my life, and I wanted more. I really wanted to thrive. I had made it through surviving. So we made that decision to split, and then I had, oh my God, I might lose the house, and what am I going to do? And, all of these things that came up, I kept coming back to the steps. I kept coming back to my higher power and being able to pray and to ask for guidance. Show me the way was one of my prayers that I used a lot then and use a lot now as well. And so in going through that transition, there was a period of time where I was single and got very involved in service. I had gone to our district meeting, and it was right when the Alateen guidelines had come into play, and my sponsor had been kind of nudging me, you might think about Alateen service. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so here I was at this district meeting, and they needed someone to do the district process person, help people get their fingerprints done and get stuff submitted. And people were freaking out about different kinds of things. And suddenly my hand was in the air, and I said, it sounds like what I need to do is meet with people, verify they are who they say they are, and send the paperwork in. I think I can do that. And that started me on this incredible journey into Alateen service, which I had no idea of what level of recovery I was going to get from that experience. I got to meet lots of other people in Alanon who were working with teens. And in 2008, a friend of mine said, I've been asked to be the Northern California Alateen Convention Chair sponsor, and I'd like you to be the co-sponsor. And I'm like, I haven't even been to NOCAC, which is the Northern California Alateen Convention. And she said, that's okay, you'll be fine. And what I didn't share, and what I don't always share in other meetings, but I think you'll get it, is in the back of my head was this piece of what's often said about folks who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, is that you're bad, you're pedophiles, you're all of these things. So there's this back piece here of, how can I do this service? But I know who I am. And the gift in doing that service, because then I'm thinking about all the things I have to do, right? So we go on camping trips and all of these things. And I'm like, but I'm not alone. I have a higher power, and I have all of these things. And I've been out for a long time. I'm thinking, all that. I don't, I went to gay games. I won a medal. I'm surprised when people don't think I'm gay. I'm out with the family, all of these things. But there was this piece, right? So my greatest fear is that something, is going to happen. And what I discovered with that particular committee, which was just phenomenal, is that the chair, who's an Alateen, was a lesbian, and about half of the other kids on the committee, maybe more than that, also identified as gay or lesbian. And one of them was actively in the process of coming out and discovering. And so not only did I get to be a sponsor in terms of my Alanon program, but to also just being me, which is what Alanon and Alateen helps me with all the time. The very first conference that I showed up at, I was very new. I didn't even know what a conference was. I maybe had 2 months, maybe more than that, 5 months or something like that. And I had walked in, and again, I'm out in Contra Costa County, and the way my life was and parenting and all of that, there was no way I was going to get to a lesbian or gay meeting. And so I'm like, well, I'm going, wherever the meetings are. And I remember going to the convention and seeing the tapers. I love the tapers, They tape, we get to hear them. And so I saw this, and it says gays and lesbians in Alanon. And I'm like, oh, it's okay for me to be me. Not that it wasn't going to be me, but just, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm always looking for signs. Is it okay for me to be me? And the other thing that they had was a literature rack. Not all of my meetings had literature pamphlets. And so there was a pamphlet that Alanon is for gays and lesbians. And I thought, oh, so again, there was this reassurance that I could be fully me at the meeting. And So I backtracked a little. So where was I going with that? So I'm on the NOCAC committee. We're doing the deal. It's going along. It's great. And then there's the area opportunity for service. And I was talking with someone, and they said, "Are you feeling the nudge?" And I'm like, "What nudge are you talking about?" And she said, "What about Alateen coordinator for Northern California?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I was thinking about it." And she's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And so I stood for that service, and I had an incredible opportunity to sponsor meetings and to be of service and to participate in the Alateen Convention and to help do the sponsor R&R, which is working with other Alanons who are interested in becoming Alanon members involved in Alateen service, or what we call EMEUS. During that process, I'm also living my life and dating and doing different things. And the same friend of mine says, "You should date someone in the program." I'm like, "There are 2 lesbians in Contra Costa in program, and I've dated one. I'm not interested in the other." And I just said, I'm just gonna live my life, right? So I'm living my life, doing my thing, and here I am at a district meeting, and I end up in conversation with this woman, and I'm like, she used the she pronoun about an ex, and was dressed in her work clothes, and so I'm like, I thought she was straight. But we continue to have this conversation, and I do what I do. An older woman comes in, and there are no more seats in the room, so I offer my seat up, and I'm standing against the back wall going, I really enjoyed that conversation. And so later, we ended up back in conversation. A friend of mine came by and said, "Did I walk up on what I thought I was walking up on?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I have butterflies in my belly, and I'm, all giddy." And on May 1st, 2010, that woman became my wife. And the gift of that, and she's here, and she read the promises, which are coming true in my life. What is amazing about our wedding, as our friend said, you all had a wedding. We are pretty traditional.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Both of us came out in our teens, and both of our families were not necessarily supportive of that. My girlfriend in high school decided it would improve our relationship if she told my mom, and it didn't. It didn't. Again, because of the family disease and how we handle stress, how we communicate, how we do those things. And for me, I didn't know how to assert myself. I didn't know how to, I didn't even know who I was, let alone to be able to advocate for that, right? So being able to continue to have the relationship, but to not talk and to have separate lives and all this kind of thing, that in my 20s and 30s, even before I found Alanon, had made a commitment to no longer live separate lives. That, hey mom, I'm bringing my partner to Christmas. Okay. I learned how to do those kinds of things. And so as we're planning the wedding, talking with my parents about, and actually, let me back up, and I never would have thought of this even before program, is being able to say, hey, Mom, I'd like you to meet, and Dad, I'd like you guys to meet the person I'm dating, and I think she's great, And so they meet her, it's wonderful. And then my mom tells me later, I was telling one of my friends that I think this is someone I see Carla having kids with. And I'm like, one, she's talking to her friends fully about me. And two, that she sees us as potentially being parents. And what a gift, and to be able to have our parents meet each other, and both of us kind of driving up there going, I've never done this before. Have you done this before? No, none of my ex's parents ever met my parents kind of thing. And it was Easter. And again, because of the program, I learned that I can ask for what I want, let go of the outcome, and see what happens. And it is like the promises. It's so much bigger than I ever imagined. At the end of the day, my parents, her parents, sitting on the porch chatting like they're long-lost friends. We're like, wow, amazing things happen when we get out of the way and we don't try to control it all. And we're less tired. So that was just, a phenomenal experience. And so talking with my parents about, I would like both of you to walk me down the aisle, and we had included in our vows that we will do a bunch of things one day at a time. And we had a lot of program people at the wedding, and people cracked up, and it's true, and that's what we get to do is one day at a time. We get to be in relationship with each other. We get to share our experience, strength, and hope. In this last year, I made a decision to work with a different sponsor and to have that conversation with this woman who stood at my wedding with me, along with a few other, I called them my team. Bridesmaids didn't really seem to fit for me. And actually, as we were walking down the hallway before we went outside, they were whistling "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" because half of them are ball players. It was just, it was amazing. It was, my sponsor and my sister and people that I've played softball with for years and years. I'm just so grateful for this program, for the fact that that Bill wrote the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, that they were willing to share them, that Lois and Ann got together and created this program for us that we continue to pass on. I want to read a passage from The Courage to Be Me, which is an Alateen piece of literature. And the gifts that I've gotten from doing Alateen service is my very first bash, which is a summer camping trip fundraiser for the Northern California Alateen Convention, NOCAC, that happens every November. And you're all welcome to come. At that very first camping trip, we do workshops, and I'm like, wow, program camping, I'm again at home. But I cried through that very first workshop because what I realized is that I was hearing my dad's story, that through these teens, I was hearing the stories that my dad wasn't able to tell. And so it helped me have much more compassion for him and an understanding of what it was like for him as a little boy. And as I watch my nephews grow and see them becoming the ages, that my dad was, that he was having to handle things, it just breaks my heart, and I can have love for him and patience with him when he does those things. It's like, Dad, we're not flying out for an hour. Do we really have to leave 2 hours before that? But that's what he needs to do so that he can feel at peace. And so, I can take care of myself and say, I'll meet you there. I have options. I have choices. Alanon and Alateen gives me choices and the ability to pause. The other thing that Alateen service gave me in the last year of my process, there was a member who was offended and concerned about my relationship and how open Nancy and I are in our interactions with the Alateens. It was the summer that we had just gotten married, and people were like, we want to see your pictures, how's the wedding, blah, blah. They're excited, they want to know. And we've known these teens for years. And we're affectionate, appropriately so, I think. And so my greatest fear, right, was I'm going to get kicked out. I'm going to get found out. I'm going to get in trouble. So this person wrote a very long letter and sent it to WSO and sent it to a number of other places, talking about me and some of the behavior of the Alateens. And when I got it, I was like, oh God, I'm in trouble. Now they're going to really kick me out, and I'm not going to get to do this anymore. And I was right back that little kid, you know, who's terrified, who in 8th grade was sitting there and hearing people talk about the murders that happened in San Francisco, you know, and all these bad things that are going to happen to me because of who I am. So I prayed, and I called my sponsor, and then I called our delegate at the time, and I said, so here's the letter I got, and, you know, help me, which is something that never came out of my mouth before these rooms. And it was fantastic. The opportunity and the healing that I got to have, and that I think I got to help the teens have as well, is that I will never apologize for who I love and how I love. And WSO's response was, reason things out with one another. We trust that this will be resolved, and you are not the only area with this challenge. Oh, I'm not going to be kicked out. I'm not going to be dethroned. Because again, those old things, I think they're gone, you know, I'm me. So something that was my absolute fear, I got to walk through it and come out on the other end and have friendships and have, and change the guidelines. You know, now when you come to a bash or you go to NOCAC, it also includes no boys and girls cabins, no girls and boys cabins, and no same gender couples sharing cabins or tents. So equality, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was a process that we all went through to come to what makes sense to do. But the thing I want to read is again from Courage to Be Me, which is what I hear around the campfire when I go to an Alateen event, is young people and adults all trying to just be me and to heal from the effects of the family disease. So this is from step 12. Many of us entered Alateen, and I would say Alanon, with a broken spirit. By working the first 11 steps, we gradually came to feel more and more alive. Now we are aware of how much better we feel, and we want to share what we have experienced. We want to let people know that we used to feel downhearted, but now we feel full of gratitude and hope. It does not mean that we will no longer have any problems. It means when problems come up, we feel confident that things will work out all right. The change in our spirit did not happen overnight. It did not come without a certain amount of commitment and work on our part, but we also did not have to do it alone. We had the benefit of our group and our higher power. We had sponsors and friends. We had the support of all of Alateen and Alanon. And now we want to play a bigger role in offering that support to others. So now do we speak for all of Alateen? Do we advise others to do exactly what we have done? Do we make promises about what the program can do for everyone in every painful situation all around the world? Of course not. In fact, we continue to do exactly what we have always done. We share our experience, our strength, and our hope. So how are things different now? Things may not be different, but we are different. We let people know what Alateen and Alanon has done for us. We volunteer. Wherever we are and whatever we are doing, we are carrying the message. Even when we are far away from any kind of Alateen or Alanon activity, we are still carrying the message of hope for all to see. By practicing these principles in all of our affairs, we are sharing our new spirit with everyone we contact. And that's what I've done today, is just share a little bit of my experience, strength, and hope. And I'm certainly not speaking for all Alanons, but for this Alanon. And I'm forever grateful that I found the rooms of this program, and that in service, that I was able to find my soulmate and the woman that I get to share my life with one day at a time. And the house I thought I was going to lose, we're going to be able to sell. And we've bought another home in Benicia, so we get to come a little closer. And it's all the miracles. The miracles show up. And I continue to work these steps. And I hope that you'll continue to keep coming back. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, so I'm going to make a few brief announcements and then we'll do the closing. I'm going to ask if Robin is present here in the room, can she stand up? Not present. Okay. Is there anybody celebrating a special anniversary or milestone this month or this year at Living Sober? If so, stand up and tell us what you're celebrating. Any anniversaries?
My anniversary is Living Sober. I'm 11 years out.
All right. Yeah, stand up. What's your name?
Tony Marie from Miami.
All right, Tony. Anybody else? Is there anybody who traveled beyond the Bay Area, outside the Bay Area, to be here tonight? Yeah, stand up.
I'm Jimmy, and I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Jimmy, welcome.
I'm Diane, and I'm from Spokane, Washington.
Welcome, Diane.
I'm Dory. I'm from Seattle.
Hi, Dory. Welcome.
From Miami.
Welcome. Wow. Yes, stand up. Hi, Kathy.
Anna, I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Hi, Anna.
Kelsey from Seattle, Washington.
Hi, Kelsey. Welcome. Anybody else? Yeah. All right, David. Welcome. Fantastic. Wow, that's impressive. Anybody else? That's a strong turnout from Florida this year. It's too hot there right now. All right, well, in the Alanon welcome, I said we have looked forward to seeing you all year, and it's really true. Those of us who've worked on Living Sober this past year, we've really waited all year to see you here. And so it's just really touching. It's thrilling. I'm excited. I'll speak for our committee. We're excited and we're happy you're here. And it's wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for coming. And this is just the start. It's going to be a great conference, a great weekend. Soak it all up. Don't miss a thing. The next meeting starts at what time? 7? Okay. So we have about an hour to fellowship and get ready for the next meeting, which is upstairs. And does anybody have any announcements that they need to make? Okay. Well, I have asked. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Steve, grateful member of Alanon.
Hi, Steve.
August 25th, Day in Alanon, sponsored by District 12, Alanon, here in San Francisco. All Alanon, all day long. Come see me for flyers.
Jim.
We're going to take care of meetings.
Those flyers. Thank you. And I'm John. Around the conference this weekend, you'll see this flyer. It's for the next fundraiser for Living Sober. It's called The Fall Follies. It's a drag show, and it's fun. And it's happening on Saturday, September 15th, so mark it on your calendars. It always starts with a AA Alanon speaker meeting from 6 to 7, and it's being held at 450 Church Street at Everett Middle School in San Francisco. And then the Fall Folly starts at 7:30, drag time. Yeah, right. Okay. So I have asked Peggy Eva to read the Alanon closing. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Peggy Eva. I'm from Santa Rosa, and can we just say thank you to Carla one more time? That was so sweet. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a workshop tomorrow on sex, intimacy, and feelings. So please, some Alanon people come and sit with me, so I'm, not by myself. And I want to also take a minute and thank John and the committee for everybody doing all this wonderful stuff for us. Thank you so much. All right. In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly those of the person who gave them. Take what you like and leave the rest. The things you heard were spoken in confidence and should be treated as confidential. Keep them within the walls of this room and the confines of your mind. A few special words to those of you who haven't been with us long. Whatever your problems, there are those among us who have had them too. If you try to keep an open mind, you will find help. You will come to realize that there's no situation too difficult to be bettered and no unhappiness too great to be lessened. We aren't perfect. The welcome we give you may not show the warmth we have in our hearts for you. After a while, you'll discover that though you may not like all of us, you'll love us in a very special way, the same way we already love you. Talk to each other, reason things out with someone else, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the understanding, love, and peace of the program grow in you one day at a time. Will all who care to join me in the closing prayer?
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious. Do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First, I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.